Alright, far as I can tell, it's like this. If there is free speech, that means there's hate speech, offensive speech, love speech. Look, nobody is arguing against love speech. Why is no one arguing against love speech? Well, it's quite simple. It's because free speech wasn't designed to protect love speech, it was designed to protect hate speech. So if you're going to have true free speech, you cannot have any legislation like that on social media or elsewhere. Otherwise, they cannot be treated in the same way they are. If they present themselves as a political ideology factory online, wherein they use their platform to advance the sort of candidates, ideologies, and political movements that they have set themselves to support from the offset, that's a different story. But Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, all these places have set themselves up as arbiters of political thinking. They tell us what to think and what not to think. Certain things they disagree with or which they believe have been established in the common ideology of modernity to be indisputable are regarded as such, regardless of others who have different ideals. And so those who don't agree with the norm are kicked out of the machine and left to the barrens to die in the digital wasteland of dispersonhood, unpersonhood. You know what happened to Alex Jones and thousands of other conservatives. Look, that's what the Conservatives were doing to the Liberals back in the 50s. Don't you remember McCarthyism? Why will you be the McCarthyists now? But here's the great irony. McCarthy wasn't even wrong, was he? It turns out Hollywood's full to the gills of you Marxist scheming socialist sleazeballs. It's absolute bollocks. Look here. Socialism is not good. And those in Silicon Valley primarily controlling thought patterns in modernity subscribe to socialist ethic. The socialist revolution will eventually transpire, perhaps under globalist means, and the end result will be a one-world government wherein all mankind is entirely controlled by a... Oh, I spit there, didn't I? Is entirely controlled by a single governing entity. Got a little... I'm going fast, so... I'm getting the saliva going. Sorry about that, watchers. I haven't showered today either. Point being, there will be a one-world government eventually, and there's not going to be any free speech about it. And it will result in the worst human abuses in history. Look at China, look at the coronavirus. You think that's not some bioweapon, you think that's just people eating bats, pangolins, pigs, or nasty fish. Get out of town, Chavez. People have been eating weird things in the jungles for hundreds and thousands of years. They're not getting this pandemic shenaniganery. Look into this stuff. You imagine a global society where it becomes necessary from the top down to entirely liquidate the populace for reasons of population control. And then you know why there's no free speech, because those who see what's going down in Chinatown would speak around, they'd stand their ground, and they would kick the fascists out if they could speak freely. The only reason there can be condemnation of what's known as free speech is when those in control are looking to foster greater control and totally subjugate the populace. Socialism is rebranded feudalism. It's just a new form of peasants, lords and ladies, where the bureaucracy plays the lord in loyalty and the rest of us are the peasants working at their behest. That's what Soviet Russia was, that's what China is now, that's what North Korea is, that's what Venezuela is. It's not going to be different. You've seen Arrested Development, where your old friend, what's his name, David, you know David, can't remember his last name right now, he's a wee bald man with a goofy moustache and a big bulbous nose. David Cross, that's probably why he's mad. His first name's David, his last name's Cross. David from the Bible, Cross from Christ, and he's an atheist. Poor little southern Jews, madder than the... Point being, he has a scene with Portia de la Rossi where they talk about an open marriage, and she says, does that ever work? And he said, no, it always fails miserably, and somehow people convince themselves into thinking it may work. But you know, for us, perhaps it will. That's socialism, lass. And that's what freedom of speech destruction's all about. It's about 1984. And you know why George Orwell wrote his dystopian novels? It's because he saw the agenda from the inside out. That's what all this is. It's an agenda being played out. And you're part and parcel to it. If you don't wake up and realise it, it's going to be worse than what's happened to the Jewish folk. It'll be worse than what's going on with the migration right now, or what's going on in China. Imagine an entire world government controlled by an elite, and you know the elite. You've swum in their circles, and they're a bunch of dirty birdies. You imagine these dirty birdies controlling the world. I got one last thing to say to you. I love blackberries, or as I prefer to call them, wee grapes. Oh, shite.